Welcome, deep divers. Have you ever looked around at work and just noticed how busy everyone seems?
Oh, absolutely. Constantly moving.
Yeah, emails flying, meetings back to back, reacting to every single notification. We feel like we're sprinting all day.
Hmm.
But then at the end of it, you wonder, what did I actually get done? Like, what really moved the needle? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It totally is. It's this trap we fall into, confusing being busy with actually being, well, productive.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. This idea that writer Eric Barker actually called the superpower of the 21st century.
Okay.
Kind of a deep work.
Deep work. Okay, so let's get right into it. What exactly is deep work? And I guess, what's the alternative?
Okay, so deep work, basically, it's when you're doing professional activities, but in a state of like total concentration, no distractions.
Zero distractions.
Zero. And these are tasks that really push your thinking, stretch your abilities. They create something new, help you get better at stuff. And this is key. They're hard for someone else just to jump in and do.
Okay, so valuable, skillful, hard to replicate. What's the opposite then?
That's what we call shallow work. Think logistical stuff, routine tasks, often done while you're distracted, maybe answering emails while half listening to something else.
Uh-huh.
This kind of work, it doesn't demand much brain power, doesn't really create new value. And honestly, pretty much anyone can do it. Easy to replicate.
Got it. Deep versus shallow. So our mission today for this deep dive is to figure out why this deep work thing is so important right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why it seems to be getting rarer, even though it sounds amazing. Why it feels so, I don't know, good when you actually do it. And crucially, how you, listening right now, can start building more of it into your life.
Exactly. And it's not just about, ticking off more boxes on your to-do list. It's really about tapping into your actual potential.
Okay, so let's talk value. Why is this deep work approach so beneficial?
Well, the value really hits home when you see how it can literally change someone's career trajectory. Take Jason Ben's story. Just a few years back, he was a financial consultant, making maybe $40,000 a year. And he had this realization.
What was that?
His entire job could pretty much be done by an Excel script.
Ouch. Not exactly job security.
Not at all. So he knew he needed something different, a real hard skill, fast.
So what did he do? This sounds like a pivot point.
Big time. He decided to become a computer programmer. And his method was, well, intense. He literally locked himself in a room, no computer.
Wait, no computer to learn programming.
Right, just textbooks, note cards, and a highlighter. That's it. He put in 5 or more hours every single day, totally disconnected. Read something like 18 books to really nail coding.
Wow. 5 hours a day, just books and notes.
Yep. This super intense, focused effort, it let him crush this really tough dev boot camp and land a programming job, paying $100,000 a year.
And he did that in
6 months.
6 months, from 40K Excel guy to $100 K programmer.
That's the power of focused, deep effort right there.
Okay, that's incredible. So it's amazing for learning tough things quickly. But it's not just about learning, right? It affects output too.
Oh, absolutely. There's this sort of formula you can think about. High quality work equals time spent multiplied by intensity of focus.
Times intensity.
Exactly. Think about Adam Grant, youngest full professor ever at Wharton. The guy published a ton of peer-reviewed papers, a bestseller.
Yeah, his output is legendary. Was he just working 24/7?
That's the thing. No, not necessarily crazy hours. His secret was maximizing the intensity when he was working. He'd batch the shallow stuff like emails or meetings really carefully, often done by 5 or 6 p.m.
So it's about the quality of focus, not just the quantity of hours.
Precisely. That intense focus lets you produce way more value in the same amount of time, or even less time.
Is there like a scientific reason why that focus works so well?
Yeah, there is actually. A business professor, Sophie Leroy, she studied this thing she called attention residue.
Attention residue, what's that?
It's like when you switch tasks really quickly, say from email to a report, then back to a chat message. A little piece of your attention, a residue, stays stuck on the last thing you were doing.
Ah, okay. So you're not fully present on the new task.
Exactly. It makes it way harder to focus deeply. Constantly switching just fragments your attention. Deep work minimizes that residue because you're sticking with one hard thing for a sustained period.
That makes so much sense. And it really highlights why deep work is becoming, well, critical in today's economy, right? This great restructuring people talk about. Who's actually winning?
Right. So in this new economy, there seem to be 3 main groups really thriving. First, The high-skilled workers.
Okay, who are they?
These are the people who can work effectively with really complex, intelligent machines and systems. Think data analysts like Nate Silver, mastering tools like SQL databases, complex statistical software. They can tease out value from complexity.
Got it. High skill, tech savvy. Who's next?
Then you've got the superstars. These are the absolute best in their field, whatever that field is. And often they can work remotely, commanding top dollar. David Heinemeier Hansen, who created Ruby on Rails, he works from Chicago, Malibu, Spain, wherever.
Right. The best of the best, location independent, and the third group.
The owners. People with capital to invest in all these new technologies, like John Doerr, the venture capitalist who backed Google and Twitter.
Okay, so high-skilled superstars and owners. What's the takeaway for, the rest of us, for our listeners?
The key thing is that deep work is the skill that helps you join those first two groups. It's how you get comfortable tackling complex systems, how you learn the hard skills needed, and it's how you produce work at an elite level, potentially becoming a superstar in your own niche.
Okay, so it's valuable. It's how you thrive. Why on earth is it so rare then? It feels like companies and individuals should be chasing this like crazy.
It is a paradox, isn't it? Probably the single biggest reason is just the sheer number of network tools surrounding us. All the time.
Email, Slack, social media.
Exactly. Email, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Teams, plus all the news and entertainment sites like BuzzFeed or Reddit. They've basically chopped up most knowledge workers' attention spans into tiny little slivers.
Slivers? I like that. Is there data on this?
Yeah, a McKinsey study back in 2012 found that the average knowledge worker was spending over 60% of their work week just on electronic communication and searching the internet.
60%. Wow, that's more than half the week just managing information flow, not necessarily creating.
Right. And this constant fragmentation, this living in the shallows, it actually has a deeper effect on our brains.
How so?
It can genuinely reduce your capacity for deep concentration.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a muscle you stop using. Nicholas Carr, who wrote the book The Shallows, he felt this himself.
What happened with him?
He found the internet was literally chipping away at his ability to focus. To write his book, which ended up being a Pulitzer finalist, he actually had to pack up and move to a cabin, forcibly disconnect himself just to be able to think deeply again.
Wow. So it's not just willpower. The environment actively works against deep focus.
And it's not just individual choices about tools either. Think about broader business trends.
Like open offices?
Exactly. Open offices, sold as promoting collaboration and serendipity, often make focused work nearly impossible because of constant interruptions. Instant messaging tools amplify this.
Yeah, that little notification popping up.
It pulls you right out. And then there's pressure, especially if you create things, to maintain this constant online presence, even if it has zero connection to the actual quality of your work.
It feels like there's this default towards the easy stuff.
That's what Cal Newport calls the principle of least resistance. In many jobs, there isn't clear, immediate feedback on the impact of different tasks. So what do people do? They drift towards the activities that are easiest in the moment.
Like constantly checking email because it feels productive.
Precisely. It's visible. It feels like you're doing something. Meanwhile, the hard, deep work gets pushed aside. There was a study by Tom Cochran at Atlantic Media. Just the time spent on internal email was costing the company over $1 million a year in wasted labor.
$1 million on email. And underlying all this, there's maybe a cultural thing too, this sort of reverence for anything internet related.
Yeah, you could call it the cult of the internet. This sort of implicit belief that if a behavior involves the internet or connectivity, it must be inherently good or innovative, regardless of its actual impact.
Right. So deep work, which values things like quality, craft, sustained focus, it starts to seem kind of old-fashioned.
Exactly. It gets overshadowed by the shiny thrum of tweets, likes, tagged photos, as Newport puts it. You see companies whose business has nothing to do with social media slapping "like us" on Facebook on their delivery trucks. It's this any benefit mindset. If there's any possible upside, however small or irrelevant to core goals, we adopt the tool or behavior. We rarely stop to weigh the costs, especially the cost to our focus.
Okay, so deep work is valuable. It's rare because of tools, trends, and culture. But let's shift gears a bit. Beyond just career success, why is doing this kind of work personally meaningful?
That's a great question. And there are, I think, arguments from a few different angles: neurological, psychological, and even philosophical.
Okay, let's start with the brain, neurological.
Yeah. There's a powerful story from science writer Winifred Gallagher. She received a really scary cancer diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And facing that, she made a conscious choice. She decided to focus intensely on the good things still in her life. Simple things like movies, walks, and a 6.30 martini.
Okay, focusing on the positive.
But it was more than just positive thinking. She found that this intense focus on the good stuff effectively hijacked her attention. It crowded out the space for fear and self-pity. Her conclusion was profound. Who you are, what you think, feel, and do, what you love, is the sum of what you focus on.
Whoa. So deep work, by demanding that kind of focus, literally shapes our experience of life. It anchors us to something substantial.
Exactly. It channels your mental energy towards something productive and meaningful, rather than letting it drift into anxiety or distraction.
Okay, that's compelling. What about the psychological argument? Does this tie into flow? I feel like I've heard that term.
Absolutely. It connects directly to Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow. Flow is that state you get into when you're so absorbed in an activity that you lose track of time, forget your surroundings, you're just fully immersed.
Right, like an athlete in the zone or a musician lost in the music.
Precisely. And deep work is almost perfectly designed to trigger that flow state. It requires high skill, provides clear goals, immediate feedback, like seeing your code work or a paragraph taking shape. All the ingredients Csikszentmihalyi identified.
And the payoff of flow isn't just getting stuff done, it's...
Happiness. Decades of research show that people are happiest when they're in flow. So, structuring your work life to maximize deep work isn't just about productivity. It's a scientifically validated path to deeper satisfaction and contentment with your life.
A working life built around flow. I like that. Okay, finally, the philosophical angle. How does deep work connect to meaning on that level?
This ties into the idea of craftsmanship, which philosophers like Hubert Dreyfus and Sean Dorrance Kelly explored. They argue that real meaning often comes from engaging with the world by applying high levels of skill with care and respect.
Craftsmanship.
Right.
Like a master carpenter or something.
Exactly. Think of someone like Rick Furr, a blacksmith who specializes in ancient metalworking techniques. It's incredibly demanding work, requiring immense skill and focus, deep work essentially. He finds profound meaning in that process, in mastering his craft.
Okay, but how does that apply to, say, an accountant or a marketer? Knowledge work.
The argument is that the meaning isn't inherent in the job title, but in the approach. As Newport says, you don't need a rarefied job. You need instead a rarefied approach to your work. Applying deep focus, striving for mastery, producing high-quality work with care that is the craft of knowledge work.
So bringing that level of depth and skill to whatever you do, that's where the meaning lies. A deep life is a good life.
Fundamentally, yes, because it connects you to this almost sacred act of applying human skill to create value in the world.
Okay, wow. So we know what depth work is, why it's so valuable, why it's so rare, and why it's deeply meaningful. This feels like the turning point. How do we actually do it? How do we cultivate this superpower? Let's get into the rules.
All right, rule number 1, work deeply. This is all about how you structure your time and your environment to actually allow for deep work.
Structuring, okay.
First step is you got to decide on your depth philosophy. There isn't really a one-size-fits-all approach here.
Okay, what are the options?
Well, on one extreme, you have the monastic philosophy. This is for people who can basically radically eliminate or minimize shallow obligations altogether. Think Donald Knuth, the famous computer scientist. He hasn't had an email address since 1990.
1990, wow, that's hardcore. Probably not feasible for most of us.
Probably not. He basically says his role requires long, uninterrupted study.
Yeah.
So that's one end. Then, maybe more practical for some, is the bimodal philosophy.
Bimodal, like 2 modes.
Exactly. You dedicate clearly defined stretches of time, could be days, weeks, even months, just for deep work, total isolation. But then, the rest of the time, you're fully accessible and open. Carl Jung did this.
The psychologist.
Yeah. He had his famous bowling and tower retreats for intense, uninterrupted writing, but balanced that with his busy clinical practice and life back in Zurich. Adam Grant, who we mentioned earlier, does something similar, stacks his teaching into one semester so the other can be dedicated to deep research, becoming almost monastic for days at a time.
Okay, so bimodal is like dedicated deep work sprints. What else?
Then there's the rhythmic philosophy. This is probably the most common and maybe easiest to implement for many people. It's about making deep work a regular habit, building it into your routine, like setting aside the same 90 minutes every morning no matter what.
Ah, like a chain method. Don't break the chain.
Exactly. It leverages habit formation.
Yeah.
The idea is that the ritual removes the need to constantly decide when and how you'll do deep work. It just becomes part of your day. Robert Caro, the biographer, His New York office is legendary for its strict rules. Everything is structured to support his deep writing routine. Charles Darwin had a very strict daily schedule too when working on Origin of Species.
So routine and ritual are key for the rhythmic approach. Is there one more?
There's also the journalistic philosophy. This is kind of the opposite of monastic. It's about fitting deep work in wherever you can find a gap in your schedule. Like a journalist on deadline, grabbing 20 minutes here, an hour there.
That sounds challenging. Requires real mental discipline to switch gears that fast.
It does. Walter Isaacson, who wrote biographies of Steve Jobs and Einstein, apparently uses this method. It requires an innate ability to shift into deep focus mode very quickly, probably the hardest one for most people to pull off consistently.
So monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, journalistic, pick your style. But regardless of style, making it a ritual seems important.
Hugely important. Ritualize your deep work. Decide where you'll work, for how long, how you'll work once you start, like no internet, specific music, and how you'll support your work. Not coffee.snacks, clear distractions. Having a consistent ritual minimizes friction and preserves your willpower for the actual deep work itself.
Protect the ritual. And sometimes maybe you need something more drastic, like J.K. Rowling finishing Harry Potter in a fancy hotel.
Exactly. Sometimes you need a grand gesture. Changing your environment dramatically can signal to your brain, okay, this is serious deep work time. Bill Gates' famous Think Weeks, where he'd retreat to a cabin with just papers and books, that's a grand gesture. It creates a clear break and reinforces commitment.
Okay, structure your time, ritualize. Does deep work always mean working alone, though? Locked away like Donald Knuth?
That's a great point. Not necessarily. The next element is understanding when not to work alone. Sometimes collaboration can actually enhance deep work.
How does that work? Isn't collaboration distracting?
It can be, but think about places like MIT's legendary Building 20 or Bell Labs in its heyday. They often had designs that combined private, quiet spaces for focused work like soundproof offices with common areas designed to encourage chance encounters and discussion. A kind of hub and spoke model.
So focus time, then interaction time.
Right. And then there's the whiteboard effect. For certain types of problems, working through them with someone else on whiteboard can actually push your thinking deeper than you might go alone. It forces you to articulate your thoughts, exposes gaps, and can break through mental blocks faster. It helps short-circuit that natural tendency we sometimes have to avoid the really hard cognitive lifting.
Interesting. So collaboration can be a tool for depth if used right. Okay, what else under this first rule of working deeply?
The final piece is crucial. Execute like a business. It's one thing to plan for deep work. It's another to actually do it consistently amidst all the other demands.
Right. Good intentions are enough.
Exactly. So Newport suggests using the 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX framework. First, focus on the wildly important. Don't try to do everything. Pick 1 or 2 really critical, ambitious goals for your deep work efforts.
Okay, narrow the focus. What's second?
Second, act on the lead measures. Don't just track the outcome you want, like papers published. That's a lag measure. Track the things you can directly control that lead to that outcome. For deep work, the classic lead measure is hours spent in a state of deep work.
Track the input you control, not just the output. Makes sense.
Third, keep a compelling scoreboard. Don't just track your lead measure somewhere hidden. Make it visible. A simple tally mark on a calendar in your workspace for every hour of deep work. Seeing the progress, or lack thereof, is incredibly motivating.
Visible progress.
Okay.
And the 4th discipline.
Create a cadence of accountability. Regularly review your scoreboard. What worked? What didn't? Hold yourself accountable. Maybe even share your progress with someone else. This keeps the focus sharp and helps you adjust your approach.
Focus, track leading indicators, scoreboard, accountability. Got it. Okay, that's rule 1. Work deeply. What's rule 2?
Rule number 2 is maybe the most counterintuitive. Embrace boredom.
Embrace boredom. We usually try to avoid boredom at all costs.
Exactly. And that's the problem. Our constant craving for novel stimuli, especially from our devices, has eroded our ability to tolerate any period without input. This intolerance for boredom is terrible for our ability to concentrate.
Why? How does avoiding boredom hurt concentration?
Think of concentration as a muscle. If you never let yourself be bored, if you fill every spare moment waiting in line, walking somewhere with checking your phone, you're never exercising that concentration muscle. Clifford Nass's research at Stanford was pretty stark on this.
What did you find?
He studied heavy multitaskers and found they weren't actually good at multitasking. They were essentially mental wrecks. They couldn't filter out irrelevant information. They couldn't stay focused on a task. Their memory was worse. Their brains had literally been rewired by constant attention switching.
Wow.
Huh?
Rewired for distraction. So how do we embrace boredom? What's the strategy?
The key insight is this. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, take breaks from focus.
Okay, flip the script. What does that look like?
It means scheduling your internet use. Decide in advance when you'll go online, maybe in specific blocks. And then, this is the hard part, avoid it entirely outside those blocks.
Entirely. No quick checks.
Try to resist. When you feel that urge, that pull of boredom or the desire for novelty, resist it. Treat those moments as opportunities for concentration calisthenics. You're actively strengthening your focus muscle every time you resist reaching for your phone just because you have a minute free. You're rewiring your brain back towards focus.
So boredom becomes training. Okay, what else helps train focus?
You can also try to work like Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, the president. How did he work?
When he was a student at Harvard, he had an absolutely packed schedule. Boxing, wrestling, natural history, writing, social clubs, tons of stuff. But he still got honors.
How? Did he just not sleep?
No, his strategy was to take the limited study time he did have, maybe fragmented blocks between activities, and attack it with blistering intensity. Maximum focus for a short burst, then move on. It's about maximizing the value from even small pockets of available time through intense concentration.
High intensity, short bursts.
Okay. Another technique is to meditate productively. This isn't about clearing your mind, but focusing it intensely on a specific professional problem while doing something physical that doesn't require much thought, like walking, jogging, or showering.
So thinking deeply while moving.
Yeah, you structure it. First, identify the variables of the problem, then formulate the specific next step question you need to answer. Focus solely on that question. Once you feel you've made progress, consolidate your answer, store it mentally, then move to the next question. It's like a structured thinking workout during otherwise dead time.
Okay, embrace boredom, schedule distractions, work intensely in bursts, meditate productively. Rule 2 is all about training that focus muscle. What's rule 3?
Rule number 3 is probably the most controversial for some. Quit social media.
Whoa, just quit, cold turkey. That sounds extreme. Isn't it essential for connection, news, even business?
That's the common argument, right? This goes back to that any benefit mindset we talked about. People focus on any potential upside of these tools without rigorously weighing them against the significant downsides, especially the massive cost of focused attention.
So what's the alternative mindset?
Newport calls it the craftsman approach to tool selection. Like a skilled woodworker carefully choosing the right chisel for a specific task, we should be just as deliberate with our digital tools.
Okay, so how do you apply the craftsman approach to, say, Twitter or Facebook?
First, you need clarity on your core goals. What are the handful of really important professional and personal objectives you're pursuing? Be specific.
Okay, identify the main goals. Then what?
Then for any network tool like social media, you ask, does using this tool provide a substantial positive impact on achieving these core goals? And crucially, do those positive impacts substantially outweigh the negative impacts, like fractured attention, time cost, potential for negativity, etc.?
Substantial impact on core goals, outweighing the negatives, not just is there any benefit.
Exactly. It's a much higher bar. Think about that farmer, Forrest Pritchard, deciding about the hay baler. He didn't just ask, will this make baling hay easier? He asked, how does owning this impact my core goal of long-term soil health, my cash flow, my time? He considered the full costs and benefits against his primary objectives.
Right. And lots of successful people seem to operate this way implicitly, right? Like writers who aren't constantly on Twitter.
Precisely. Malcolm Gladwell, Michael Lewis, George Packer, hugely successful writers who consciously avoid Twitter because they've determined it doesn't offer a substantial benefit to their core goal of crafting and selling excellent long-form writing, and the costs to their focus would be too high. Their success speaks for itself. It's the 80-20 rule, the law of the vital few. Identify the few activities that drive the most results and be ruthless about minimizing or eliminating everything else.
Okay, the craftsman approach makes sense logically, but quitting sounds scary. How do you actually test if you need these tools?
Try the dunking booth experiment.
The dunking booth, like at a carnival.
Sort of. The idea is you take a break from optional network tools, especially social media, for 30 days. Crucially, don't announce it. Just disappear.
30 days, no announcement. Why no announcement?
Because announcing it primes people to check in on you. defeating the purpose of seeing if anyone actually missed your presence or if you truly missed out on something vital.
Ah, okay. So after the 30 days.
Ask yourself two simple questions. One, would the last 30 days have been notably better if I had been able to use this service? And two, did people care that I wasn't using this service?
Hmm. Be honest with yourself.
Exactly. For many people, the answer to both is no or not really. The fear of missing out evaporates when confronted with the reality that, for their core goals and relationships, these tools were often just, as Newport says, a lightweight whimsy, one unimportant distraction among many.
Okay, rule 3. Quit, or at least rigorously evaluate, social media using the craftsman approach. What's the final rule, rule 4?
Rule number 4, drain the shallows. This is about systematically reducing the amount of low-value, shallow work that inevitably creeps into our days and eats up time that could be spent on deep work.
Draining the shallows, finding and eliminating that busy work.
Exactly. You'd be surprised how much of it exists and how much of it is actually dispensable. The company 37 Signals, now Basecamp, famously experimented with this.
What did they do?
They shortened their standard work week from 5 days down to 4 during the summer. Later, they even gave employees a whole month off just to work on self-directed deep projects.
And what happened? Did productivity tank?
Quite the opposite. They found that compressing the work week forced everyone to cut out the fluff, the unnecessary meetings, the endless email chains, the shallow work. They focused on what mattered. And giving people dedicated time for deep projects led to major innovations. They became more successful by consciously reducing the shallow and protecting the deep.
Wow. Less can be more, if it's the right less. So how do we individually drain our own shallows?
The most fundamental technique is to schedule every minute of your day.
Every minute. That sounds incredibly rigid. Like, what if something unexpected comes up?
It sounds rigid, but it's not about sticking to the schedule perfectly. It's about intentionality. Studies show people are terrible at estimating how they spend their time, like British TV watchers thinking they watch 15 hours a week when it's actually closer to 28.
We fool ourselves.
We do. By planning out your day in blocks, even just sketching it out roughly, like 9, 10.30 deep work on Project X, 10.30, 11 email batch, 11:12 meeting, etc., you force yourself to confront how you're actually allocating your time.
So the plan itself reveals where the shallow stuff is hiding.
Exactly. It makes you consciously decide what to do with each block, rather than defaulting to autopilot or reacting to whatever pops up. If something unexpected happens, you just take a minute to adjust the rest of your day's schedule. The goal isn't perfect adherence, it's purposeful allocation of time.
Okay, schedule the day to make shallow work visible. What else? Can you talk to your boss about this?
Absolutely. A powerful move is to ask your boss for a shallow work budget.
A budget, like how much shallow work I'm allowed to do.
Sort of. Have an open conversation. Realistically, what percentage of my time should be dedicated to things like email, routine meetings, administrative tasks, versus deep, focused work on my core projects? Getting clarity on this does two things.
What are they?
One, it often reveals that even your boss doesn't want you spending 60% of your time on shallow stuff. It's usually incredibly inefficient for the company to pay a skilled professional just to manage email. Two, it gives you implicit permission and even cover to start saying no more often to requests that fall outside that agreed upon shallow work budget or interfere with your deep work goals.
Define the ratio, get buy-in, smart. Okay, any final big strategy for draining the shallows?
Yes, and this might be the most powerful one for forcing prioritization. Finish your work by 5:30 or 5 or 6. Pick a firm, fixed end time for your workday and stick to it religiously.
Fixed schedule productivity, no working late.
Try your absolute best not to. Setting that hard deadline creates a sense of urgency, a scarcity mindset around your working hours. It forces you to be absolutely ruthless about prioritizing. You simply don't have time for non-essential meetings or endless email checking if you know you have to be done by 5:30.
It forces you to focus on what truly matters because the clock is ticking.
Exactly. Radhika Nagpal, a professor at MIT, is a great example. She managed incredible research output, got tenure on schedule, even published on the cover of Science, all while strictly limiting her work hours and aggressively cutting back on shallow commitments like excessive travel or optional reviews. She proved that these artificial limits can actually make you more successful, not less.
Because they compel you to protect your deep work time.
Precisely. It becomes a powerful meta habit. When you're working, work intensely on what matters. When you're done, truly be done. Recharge.
Wow. Okay, so those are the 4 rules. Work deeply, embrace boredom, quit social media, or evaluate it hard, and drain the shallows. So let's bring it all home. What does this mean for you listening right now?
Well, what we've explored today shows that deep work isn't just some, productivity hack. It's really a pragmatic way to succeed professionally in a world that increasingly values complex skills and high-quality output. It lets you learn faster, produce more valuable work.
And it's more than just career stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. As we saw, it's also a direct path to a more meaningful and satisfying life. It allows you to engage with your work on a deeper level, experience flow, and ultimately feel a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment by focusing your attention on things that truly matter.
So, the final thought for everyone listening: in this world that constantly screams for your attention, demanding instant responses and constant connection, what's one small step, maybe even a counterintuitive one, that you could take this week? What could you do to start building your own personal bowling and tower, that space for focus, and begin reclaiming your ability to do truly impactful work?
That's the question to ponder. We really hope this deep dive gives you some inspiration and maybe some practical tools to find your own path towards more depth.